Episode 25, entitled Antares Masters, begins with the Hyperforce underwater fighting this big monster called Archulu. Geesh, blatant Cthulhu acknowledgement much? Right away, it rips the head off the robot with Antares inside. The team recover though, but before they can get back on track, Antares and Chiro are in pain as Chiro proclaims something is wrong with the power primate. The robot destroys a reef to crush Archulu. Back on the robot, Antares is confronted by his teammates as apparently he has not been acting like himself. Antares feels something is wrong with the power primate, so he plans on visiting the Veron Mystics, the ones who taught Antares the power primate. Yup, it seems Antares had to learn the power primate and wasn't born with it or was given to him by the alchemist. While the alchemist does mix science and magic, truth be told, all the monkey's weapons and faculties are mostly mechanical. Know how earlier in the episode Antares and Chiro feel the sudden burst of pain while the rest of the team trudge along. Of course they possess the power primate, I assume being taught it by Antares, but Antares learned his trait from the source, while as for Chiro, if I recall the opening,
I discovered an abandoned super robot. It was then my life was transformed by the mysterious power primate.
Antares heads off to see his masters, but Chiro sneaks aboard the Brain Scrambler, saying he had a bad feeling he would not come back. They see the Jewel Planet, which is the home of the Veron Mystics. We see two Mystics giving Chiro and Antares some dark Sith get-ups. We learn the Mystics are all masked. Chiro must wait as Antares heads in. Antares meets up with Master Zan, leader of the Veron Mystics. Zan is voiced by Michael York, best known as Basil Exposition in the Austin Powers movies.
Hello, Austin. I'm Basil Exposition with British Intelligence.
And as for voice acting credits...
Pleased enough to tell us who he is?
Pleased enough to give you this. It emits a concentrated energy beam, capable of destroying even the most invulnerable of targets.
Zan proclaims how the power primate has been defiled, as shown by Antares getting zapped. Chiro feels it and tries to head in, but gets the old "you shall not pass" dialect in return.
You shall not pass. You shall not pass.
Chiro, being the chosen one and all, defeats the guard of the door using the inner primate. But with the power primate being all wacky, Chiro, after walking through the door, sees a vision of a terrorized Shugazum city. Back home, Nova and Gibson are worried when Chiro contacts the team via, "Okay, we are starting to get really heavy-handed on the Star Wars stuff, guys."
Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person.
Chiro tells the team where they are, so the team heads off to the Veron Temple. Meanwhile, Master Zan antagonizes Antares before revealing he has actually joined Skeleton King in his conquest. Chiro rushes to try to get to Antares, but another guard is in the way. Chiro breaks out the inner primate, and after a bit of a fight, surprise, he wins. Antares faces off against Master Zan, but controlling the power primate and all, this ain't a fair fight. Chiro on the other side of the gate cannot get through. Antares is getting mauled as Chiro's earlier premonition seems to be coming true. So Chiro literally goes Super Saiyan this time to get through the final gate in time to save Antares. Chiro's punch, however, cracks Zan's mask as we see...
The countenance of your destructor.
Zan, feeding off the corrupted power primate, knocks out Chiro as we get a cool runaway fight between Antares, Zan, and Chiro. The corruption of the power primate is an issue, but the rest of the monkey team make it to the rescue. Wait a second, Chiro had to get through 2 guardians and 3 gates to reach Antares, and yet all the Hyperforce had to do was smash through the ceiling? Yeesh. Zan proves himself a formidable and creepy foe by defeating the entire monkey team.
Your inner primate is mine!
You want it? Then take
Yep, the whole place is gonna blow. The team escapes, but the Veron Temple is no more, as presumably the Power Primate is no more as well. Skeleton King alongside Mandarin begin their strike on Shugazum to end the episode. This episode is the most forgotten out of the episodes in the Chiro saga for the simple reason that there's a lot coming. The guard fights, while cool to look at, seem to just be there as filler fights that mean little other than an obstacle for Chiro. And since this episode is so heavily focused on Chiro and Antari, the rest of the monkey team seem like an afterthought, which this trend will continue in the next episode. What makes up for it though is the fight with Master Zan. Zan is just a creepy villain and one of the most diabolical looking of the entire show. The dialogue in this episode is also phenomenal.
There is still hope, Master Zan.
No, dear Antari. I have seen the beginning and end of all created things. I've even seen your precious, chosen one fall before the might of the Dark Ones.
That will never happen.
This episode mostly is to lay out the law of the land and give Antari a teeny bit of backstory. Episode 26 is the Season 2 finale, and is entitled Chiro. We begin where we left off, with Skeleton King having his formless army attack Shugazum City as Skeleton King and Mandarin watch. Keep in mind, Hyperforce have been at the Veron Temple this whole time, so nobody has been protecting the city. Antari mentions how the Power Primate is now so corrupted the monkey team are unable to use it. Here is where we learn more about the Dark Ones.
Eons ago, when the galaxy was young and worlds were just coming to be, a vile cosmic force desired to destroy all reality. It implanted offspring, the Dark Ones, within the core of countless planets, knowing that one day, far into the future, they would be free to spread their evil like a plague across the universe. The Veron mystics were to make certain that never happened.
But they blew it, and now Skeleton King is gonna let one of those things loose? Oh, this is gonna be a great day.
This attack on Shugazum is different from the others as we see the actual damage they do. The Super Robot, however, arrives. They decide to protect this city first and go after Skeleton King later. Here we get a long but cool battle involving the robot versus various Formless, eventually leading to the robot facing multiple huge Formless. The robot fights well but is simply overpowered as the rockets are destroyed and the faceplate of the Brain Scrambler is removed. With Antari once again in great pain, Chiro goes ballistic with the most awesome Lasertron Fury ever to defeat the Formless. However, the robot is with emergency power only. Meanwhile, Skeleton King and Mandarin are at the Pit of Doom. Yep, I told you that place is important. They prepare to awaken a beast Skeleton King calls Master as the evil duo rejoice. The area shoots out a projectile that knocks out the robot and the Hyperforce. Chiro is the first to awaken as he finds more Formless. Without the use of the Power Primate, Chiro as a last-ditch effort overloads the neutron generator, lures the Formless to him, and causes an explosion so big it blows a hole through the chest of the robot. After the episode, the monkeys are still not awake, as we see a rather disturbing scene of Chiro putting the monkeys in their respective tubes, looking almost like Chiro is laying them to rest at a funeral. Talk about foreshadowing. Meanwhile, the Dark One's essence colors the sky and even destroys part of the city. So Chiro gets a rocket pack, a nifty gray glove, and says goodbye to the monkey team. Again, foreshadowing. Back at the Pit of Doom, Skeleton King is monologuing, but Mandarin smells something. Turns out he sniffed out Chiro, who Skeleton King pulls the Sunriders on and tries to make him old. The two have a chat.
You are fortunate, boy. You will witness the birth of the Dark One. Once free, Shugazum will be consumed. Your civilization ended.
All this just so you could bow to something uglier than yourself. You're no king. You're a slave.
Mandarin goes to attack Chiro, but that glove turns out to be the hand of Otto, saw and all. We saw way back in episode 6 that Chiro can simply put on a monkey hand and use it at his whim, since that is what he did with Mandarin's shield, so smart thinking to take Otto's hand and use it as a weapon. Interesting choice also, considering he could have used Gibson's multifaceted drill or Antari's ghost claws. But the saw is pretty basic, so I suppose ease of use comes into play. We get an awesome little fight scene between Mandarin and Chiro before Mandarin catches an opening and destroys the saw. Chiro without the Power Primate seems no match for Mandarin. Skeleton King plans to throw Chiro to the Dark One. Enter Antari, who steals the Skeleton King's staff, knocks out Mandarin, throws the staff into the pit, and cracks Skeleton King's chest plate. Quite an entrance. Skeleton King, however, points out that all he needs to get Antari is to threaten Chiro. So Antari shows himself only to get caught. He gets Skeleton King monologuing again, which he uses as an opportunity. Antari, having put Skeleton King in the pit, reminds Chiro that the Power Primate is not really gone, so it seems everything will be all...
You were always my inferior, more suited for philosophy than battle.
Chiro, in a rage, steals Mandarin's beam sword, cuts off his arm, and has Mandarin fall into the pit himself to get eaten. Antari gives a warning before going out like a light. But guess who? Skeleton King does not appear to be acting of his own volition, as he is now connected to the Dark One. Antari, in a weakened state, is about to be attacked, but Chiro tries his best to shield him. To no avail, unfortunately. But the robot in shambles saves Chiro and Antari. The Hyperforce tries to help, only to get attacked themselves. The egg is breaking out, so Antari makes a decision to try and save the universe. Antari pretty much becomes pure energy of the Power Primate, infuses himself with Chiro, and powers the robot to seal the egg just as the Dark One breaks out. Chiro, now possessed with so much Power Primate that he himself is half monkey, attacks Skeleton King. The worm gets cut in half, but is still rising up. Chiro tries his best to grab a hold of Skeleton King, but his head snaps off from the rest of his body. With Skeleton King and the Dark One worm as one, they escape into the atmosphere. Otto, Gibson, Sparsanova are left in a state of confusion when they try to communicate with Chiro, who is clutching Antari's helmet until the team spot him, and he runs off. The team mourn the loss of Antari. Otto especially looks to be the most devastated of the four, seeing as, like I had said earlier, he seems to be the most sensitive, always trying to make everyone happy. The citizens of Shogazum look at their destroyed city and mangled robot, as Chiro in his current state runs off into the unknown to end the episode. This is a heavy episode. Lots of drama, action, and yes, a death. Not to mention the good guys didn't really win, as the Dark One worm still broke out somewhat. And this is the season finale. I got into the show in the third season, so I knew something was going to happen. And when I saw it, my reaction was, so that's how it happens. Huh. However, I'm trying to imagine for a second that it is May 15th, 2005. I'm a fan of the show and witness all this happening for the first time. No! 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 And guess what? I am not going to know what happens until October. Again, most of the rest of the cast are put aside as this episode is all about Chiro and Antari for obvious reasons. Interesting to note that they foreshadow the hell out of Antari's death, and yet he survives a lot in the past two episodes. He's been blown up, electrocuted, knocked out, blown up again, choked, and even had a frickin' lightsaber go through his brain. But he chooses death willingly in order to save everybody. Chiro also, despite being in the monkey form, you can tell is distraught from the whole thing, from his anger in attacking Skeleton King, to him clutching at Antares' helmet until everyone else arrives. Well, Season 2 is over, but I have to finish the story here. Season 3 begins with episode 27, entitled The Savage Lands, Part 1, immediately telling us we are only halfway through this tale. The story begins where we left off, with Chiro running to some unknown location. By the way, for the second time, I will be using my own copy of the episode since it is the only one around, so apologies for the drop in quality. Chiro, in his half-primate state, is quickly running through this dangerous area of Sugazoom with many things attacking him, and yet refuses to let anything stop him. When Chiro finally gets some rest, we see he is still Chiro in there as he mourns the loss of Antares, and recalls a moment from episode 4.
How do I pick the right path?
The right path is often the one you're already on.
It seems Antares is still with Chiro somehow. Not hard to believe, as Antares pretty much infused himself with Chiro in the last episode, which explains his current state. Meanwhile, the rest of the monkey team and Jinmei, where the hell have you been all season, are trying to get Chiro's signal. In case you are wondering how Jinmei can understand the monkeys now, remember episode 24 and that they have a universal translator now. When they find Chiro's signal, Gibson decodes Chiro's monkey talk to find Chiro is going to find Antares. They find a faint signal and decide to go after it, which leads to the subplot of this episode.
There's no time to waste. Monkeys, mobilize! With Chiro and Antares gone, I should give the orders, Sparks. Come again, Gibson? My logic will lead us to Chiro. The kid's acting on instinct, and that's my department. I'll find him.
Are you two gonna talk all day or do something?
The robot goes to the zone of wasted years, where Chiro is currently still making his way through many obstacles, until he finds some kind of shrine. However, when Chiro approaches it, we see a formless T-Rex. Okay, that's different. Chiro gets trapped in the mouth of the beast, but using the power primate, blows his way out of the mouth and evolves someone into a more human-like self. I do recall some people in comments and forum posts saying how Chiro used some of Antares to survive, but since Antares told him to embrace the power primate, I believe it is more of Chiro starting to gain control of all this power. The robot lands and the monkey team go after Chiro while Jinmei stays behind. The monkeys find the area as we get Gibson and Sparks continuing to outlead each other. Chiro finds what appears to be a lab as we see the familiar face of the alchemist. He has a recorded message of how he created the monkey team. Yep, this is where it happened. We see an interesting structure where apparently the alchemist had been working on a silver monkey, one which is fully robotic and is an ultimate fighting machine. However, it was a failure since it needed the power primate. Back in the zone, the monkey team gets attacked, and the bickering between Sparks and Gibson is starting to put them in danger. Luckily, Otto makes the save. Sparks ends up breaking Gibson's scanner, which leads to more arguing between the two.
Perhaps your razor-sharp instinct could be put to some use, Sparky. I told you never to call me that.
Guys, how about we just follow Chiro's footprints?
You're the best, Otto.
Nah, you're the best. What?
Chiro, back in the lab, is putting together the silver monkey, whose claws are very similar to that of Antares. The team find the lab, as well as Chiro. Chiro shows how he's rebuilding Antares. When Gibson says Antares is gone, Chiro grabs the silver monkey and hides in a corner, protecting it. Jinmei communicates with Chiro to try to convince him to come home, but loses communication. The team has a short but heartfelt conversation with Chiro.
We miss Antares too, Chiro.
Let's get you home, kid. Where you belong.
It may have only lasted a moment, but it shows how much Antares is missed by everyone, and seems like Chiro is about to give up bringing him back, as he briefly buries his head in the silver monkey. However, the team are attacked by some ugly formless. The team try to attack back, but cannot seem to get the upper hand. Chiro in a rage goes after the formless beings. Chiro reconnects with the team a bit before a gang of those jungle formless appear. Chiro, in order to try and salvage things, tries one last time to revive Antares using the silver monkey. Meanwhile, we get a fight scene of the monkey team being soundly defeated in flashes of white light. The silver monkey, however, does not come alive, much to the dismay of Chiro. We end the episode as it is him versus hundreds of jungle formless. This episode, at first, much like Antares' Masters, seems to have Chiro go through all these trials that get in the way of his ultimate goal. However, while in Antares' Masters it seemed like padding, here it just shows how dangerous the area is and what Chiro is going through, all in the hopes of bringing Antares back. This episode also shows us a lot of how Chiro is coping with the loss of Antares, when up until now we only dealt with how the monkey team was feeling. Although we do touch on that as well. There's a brief moment earlier in the episode where Otto is also hopeful that Antares is alive, but is brought back down to Earth again, which is a great little scene. The subplot of deciding who takes command when Chiro and Antares are gone almost steals the episode here. After so much heavy drama going on, it's good to have a bit of levity that does not seem out of place, since the question of who is in charge now is a legitimate one. Also, for quite a long while now, Sparks and Gibson have had this friendly rivalry with one another where they try to one-up each other, but still care for one another. With the tensions of the current situation, they seem to now be full-on competing. Not because they hate each other, but because each of them believe they rightfully should be in charge. All the while, though, it is Nova and Otto who are acting more mature and like leaders. Episode 28 is part 2 of the Savage Land story, and after a brief recap, we rejoin a trapped monkey team as Chiro grips the silver monkey. When the formless try to pull the two apart, Chiro and the silver monkey float in the air, the power primate being sucked from Chiro, turning him back to his normal self before he goes unconscious. In the meantime, Jinmei is unable to contact anyone and is jumped by the formless. She has a brief moment of her hands glowing before she is taken hostage. Back at the lab, Green Eyes! Chiro awakens saying he barely remembers anything except trying to find Antares. The formless take the Hyperforce up some kind of pyramid. Gibson and Sparks are still arguing, by the way. They are near the entrance when...
Did you see that?
What is going on?
I dare not believe my eyes.
It is I, Monkey Team. I have returned. Reborn.
So yeah, Antares is back, now 100% robot monkey, as the team reconnects with him briefly. They hear Jinmei scream and immediately go right back to hero mode. The team, once again whole, are confused by their location. Sparks inadvertently sets off not one, but 2 traps, having the monkey team go to make a quick escape. This short bit of comedic action once again breaks the super serious tone of these 4 episodes for a moment and adds some levity. We then meet someone new.
This tomb is the perfect resting place for great warriors such as yourselves. Don't you agree, Hyperforce?
Who are you?
You may call me Valina, Chiro.
Valina was a former Sugazoom citizen until Skeleton King gave her some powers. She is voiced by Heidi Walsh, whose voice acting credits include Princess Bubblegum in Adventure Time, and...
I shall thank you for my rescue by reciting the poem of gratitude, all 6,000 verses.
Valina breaks the news that Skeleton King isn't exactly dead, as he infused himself with the Dark One worm and is corrupting worlds to gain power until they can come back to Sugazoom. At first glance, the fact that both the worm and Skeleton King still live made me think that Antares' sacrifice ultimately was in vain. But since Skeleton King isn't exactly his own being anymore, and the Dark One worm needs the power of various weaker planets, it did buy one thing for the Hyperforce. Time. Time for Sugazoom to still be around, and time for the Hyperforce to attack. The Hyperforce are about to go after Valina, but with Jinmei hostage, they hold back, letting her escape. Valina leaves a monster for the Hyperforce to fight as well. The monkey team gets their collective butt kicked for a while. In the meantime, Valina has Jinmei tied up for some kind of sacrifice to the Dark One worm. Immediately, two thoughts come into my mind. 1. Isn't she a robot? She pretty much is 100% metal. I don't know how old-fashioned voodoo sacrifices are supposed to work on this. 2. She's a robot! We saw on 2 occasions she can become this giant killing machine the size of the super robot. So just do that, Jinmei. Only explanation I could come up with was earlier in the episode she had some flashing arms, so maybe she's having some technical issues. I don't know. Back in the fight, Chiro's inner primate fights well for a while, but gets cornered. By the way, I love this shot of how close Chiro came to being spearheaded. Antari claws his way through the beast, giving enough time for Chiro to rip the head off and win. Hey, it's those reboot things again. The tomb is sealed, so there should be no way out, but it is here where we learn a new ability Antari has with the Silver Monkey.
Allow me.
The team hurry as Valina sings to summon the Dark One worm. We see the worm with Skeleton King's head. Skeleton King seeming unable to talk, so I guess no more monologues this season. Antari goes for Jinmei while everyone else goes after Valina. Valina, however, takes everyone down. We see for a brief moment Nova use her flame fist to no avail. So it seems she has some kind of control of that power she unveiled back during Snowbound. Antari seems to be losing as well until he seemingly infuses himself into the worm, shocking it. This causes enough distraction for Chiro to destroy the Skull Monument. The Dark One worm retreats, leaving Valina powerless. Valina still tries to attack, but Chiro drops her into some kind of pool as she is seemingly done. Jinmei apologizes for being captured. Aw, how sweet. The cave is about to collapse, so Antari once again shows off some new stuff as he single-handedly summons the super robot. Insert, we can't activate the robot without Chiro, clip here. The team escapes and heads home. We see Shugzu repairing its buildings for a brief moment, and Jinmei is faring well in the robot's training mode. Good to see her getting the hang of things. Oh, and as for that third in command subplot...
Antari, who, pray tell, is third in command?
Why, Nova, of course.
Since Skeleton King and the Dark One worm are causing havoc across the universe, Chiro and Antari make the decision to go after it. So the Hyperforce leaves Shugzu temporarily to Jinmei in a matching outfit to Chiro's to protect the city. Kiss, aww. Yeah, these two are an obvious item at this point. And so we end the story arc with the super robot flying into space. The final episode of the Chiro Saga is used to start a new chapter for this season. Antares is reborn, and his body is 100% machine, although he still has the power of Primate fused inside him. This will become used for various episodes in the future. Skeleton King isn't really a person anymore, but more an evil essence, having fused himself with the Dark One worm. And as we learn at the end of the episode, the Hyperforce are going to spend the entire season outside of Shugazum, going from planet to planet in order to take out the Dark One worm. Valina is an interesting character, although not very fleshed out in this episode. Seeing Antari reconnect with the team, although it was only for a brief moment, was rather touching, seeing as how everyone pretty much missed him because, you know, he died. My one big issue with this episode is the reveal of Antari coming back to life. Not here with the surprise epic reveal and the music that I've used for my own intros, but here with the quick showing of the green eyes, basically telling us, yep, he's back. However, these are all minor issues, as after having watched all 4 episodes closely, yeah, there are things that don't exactly make sense, but as a narrative, everything is insane. We dealt here with the betrayal of a society, the death of a loved character, a great evil being spread upon the entire universe, and having said killed character coming back more powerful than before. Yeah, one more Star Wars reference to close things out.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
And And that about wraps up this long episode of In Depth. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk from back in October. And like I said before, the episodes will be coming back, just I'm not sure when. It'll be done on a when I can basis. But I promise you, you will not see a drought as long as you had between the finale and Season 2. So, sit tight. I'll get back to these as soon as I can. My name is Felipe Diaz Vera, and I will see you next time.
Your goal is to retrieve the secret map of the Bandit Queen and bring it back here.
Thanks a lot, Olmec. So tell me, where is this secret map?
The secret map of the Bandit Queen can be found in the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Oh my, all right, teams.